Ever notice how, I don't know, a lemon just doesn't seem quite as zingy as it used to?
Mm.
Or maybe, your grandma adds loads of salt to her soup, even when it tastes fine to you.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Well, it's not just in your head.
Yeah.
Our bodies, they change in really complex ways, even down to something as basic as taste.
It's a subtle thing, isn't it? But it points to bigger shifts happening inside us as we get older.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's really get into this today. On the deep dive, we're tackling a super important part of this whole story, nutrition in old age. We've pulled together quite a bit of information to really understand what happens with our nutritional needs later in life.
And what's really interesting, I think, is that it's not just a simple case of, needing less of everything. It's much more nuanced, a recalibration, sort of.
Right.
The whole aging process kicks off this chain reaction, affecting how we process food, how we absorb nutrients, even how we experience flavor.
And that has huge implications for staying healthy,
Right.
right? For our well-being.
Absolutely. Massive implications.
Okay, so our aim today is really to pull out the key stuff, the insights that will genuinely help you understand these changes, whether it's for yourself or maybe you're supporting a parent or relative.
Yeah, cut through the noise.
We want to avoid confusion, give you a clear, kind of actionable picture of what good nutrition looks like as we age.
And we'll be touching on those big shifts, the physiological ones in the body, the psychological factors too, which are huge,
Definitely.
and those subtle but really important changes in our immune system. Plus, we'll zoom in on specific vitamins, minerals, the micronutrients, and why they might become even more critical.
Giving us that full picture of, what's it called? Geriatric nutrition.
That's the term, yeah, geriatric nutrition.
Okay. And listen, before we dive deeper, we really want to give a special shout out to London Heartbeatsy Academy in the UK.
Yeah.
They've been fantastic with educational support. Seriously, they offer over 150 popular courses on all sorts of topics, so if you love learning, you should definitely check them out.
Really broad range.
Find them on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Just search London Heartbeats Z Academy. They post free, regular updates, and you won't want to miss their future discussions.
Good stuff.
All right, so our mission today: nail down the absolute essentials of nutrition in old age, focus on the practical side, the takeaways, without getting lost in, all the jargon.
Keep it grounded.
So where do we start? How do we even define old age for this conversation?
Right. Good starting point. The sources generally peg old age as starting around 60 years and up.
Okay, 60.
And then within nutrition, you've got this specialty, geriatric nutrition, which is all about the specific dietary needs of people in that age group.
Makes sense. It's acknowledging things change significantly after 60, nutritionally speaking.
Exactly. It needs that focused attention.
Got it. So 60 is the marker.
Yeah.
And it's way more than just like gray hair and wrinkles, isn't
Oh,
it?
much more.
Our sources kept bringing up these three connected areas: physiological, psychological, and immunological changes. Let's maybe start with the physical stuff, the physiological changes. What happens there that really hits our nutrition?
Yeah. Okay. The sources paint a pretty detailed picture, starting right at the beginning with our senses, taste and smell.
Right, the lemon example.
Exactly. Our ability to perceive taste and smell can decline. And it's not just about food being less, fun to eat.
Uh-huh.
It can sometimes lead to what you might call sensory anorexia, basically. Less motivation to eat because the pleasure isn't there, which can cut down nutrient intake even if the body still needs those nutrients.
Wow, sensory anorexia, that's powerful.
And then there's the mouth itself. Salivary glands might produce less saliva,
Which helps break down food, right?
crucial for that initial step. And dental problems, loose teeth, dentures that don't fit well, gum issues can make chewing really difficult or painful.
Yeah, I can see how that would lead to eating less or maybe sticking to softer foods.
Right. Definitely. And softer foods aren't always the most nutrient-packed options, are they?
True. So if eating itself becomes harder or less enjoyable, our intake naturally drops. What about once the food gets past the mouth, down into the digestive system?
Okay, so moving down, we see changes in gastric function. The stomach might empty more slowly.
Meaning you feel full faster?
Exactly, feeling full quicker into a meal, which can obviously mean you eat less overall. Plus, it can lead to that uncomfortable feeling like bloating after eating.
Okay.
Then you get to the small intestine. That's where most nutrient absorption happens, and its efficiency. It can decrease.
Ah, like you said, the filter isn't working as well.
Kind of, yeah. Less efficient at grabbing all those vital vitamins and minerals. And even the liver and gallbladder, which are key for processing fats and fat-soluble vitamins, their function can change too.
So it's a double whammy, almost.
Uh,
Harder to get enough food in, and then less efficient at pulling the goodness out of the food you do eat.
that's a good way to put it.
And what about metabolism? I remember reading about that slowing down.
Yes, that's a big one. Our overall metabolic rate tends to decrease. The basal metabolic rate, that's the energy you burn just existing, basically.
At rest, yeah.
Right. That can drop by, well, sometimes 15 or even 20%, which is significant.
15 to 20%. Wow.
Yeah, and that's a major reason why overall calorie needs often go down as we get older.
That makes total sense.
And alongside all this, the sources also mention neurological changes. Things like maybe a general slowing of cognitive function, sometimes issues with orientation, memory.
How does that connect to nutrition?
Indirectly, mostly. It can affect someone's ability to plan meals, shop for groceries, remember to eat, or even follow recipes correctly.
Right, the practical side of feeding yourself. It's a really complex picture of internal shifts.
Okay, what about the other two areas? Immunological and psychological.
Immunologically, the immune system tends to weaken gradually with age. It's sometimes called immunosenescence.
Senescence.
Okay.
Basically, it means older adults might be more susceptible to infections, and when the body is fighting something off, its nutritional needs can actually go up to fuel that fight and recovery.
Ah, interesting. So, lower defenses, but potentially higher needs when sick.
Precisely. And psychologically, well, things like depression, loneliness, social isolation, which unfortunately can be more common in later life,
Yeah.
or cognitive decline, they can all have a massive impact on appetite, food choices, and just the general ability or motivation to prepare and enjoy meals. If you're feeling lonely, cooking a proper meal just for yourself can feel like a huge effort.
Absolutely. It really drives home how interconnected everything is: body, mind, social situation, all feeding into nutritional health.
Couldn't agree more.
So with all these big internal changes, it stands to reason our actual nutritional needs change too, right? They don't just stay the same.
No, definitely not. That's a core theme across the board. Generally, there's this trend towards needing less overall energy, fewer calories.
Because of the slower metabolism and maybe less activity.
Exactly, and less need for the macronutrients that provide that energy, like carbohydrates and sometimes protein too, although protein needs can be complex.
Why the potential drop in protein needs? Or is it more nuanced?
It's often linked to that decrease in physical activity and the loss of muscle mass sarcopenia. Muscle burns more energy than fat, so less muscle means slightly lower overall needs. But maintaining adequate protein is still crucial to slow muscle loss.
Ah, okay. So maybe fewer total calories, but getting enough protein within those calories is key.
Precisely. It's about nutrient density. We also tend to have an increase in body fat relative to muscle mass as we age.
Right. I think one source showed calorie ranges dropping across adult age groups.
Yeah.
Even if it didn't specify over 60s.
Yeah.
The downward trend was clear.
It was, but, and this is the really crucial part, while energy needs might drop, the need for many micronutrients stays the same or even increases.
Okay, so less energy but same, or more vitamins and minerals.
Exactly. Vitamins like D, B12, C, E are consistently flagged. Minerals like calcium, iron, zinc. And definitely water and fiber, their importance doesn't diminish at all.
Still vital.
Hugely vital. And several sources also specifically mentioned omega-3 fatty acids as being important to keep an eye on.
Okay, so it's less about quantity and much more about quality, making every calorie count, nutrient-wise.
That's the essence of it, making sure the food consumed is nutrient-dense.
Right. Let's dig into some of those specifics then. Why do these particular nutrients become so important? Calcium came up a lot.
Calcium is critical, primarily for bone health. The recommendation is often around 800 milligrams a day for older adults.
Why that much?
It's mainly to help compensate for that natural age-related bone loss, trying to reduce the risk of osteoporosis and fractures.
Makes sense.
But here's the kicker. Our ability to absorb calcium from our food tends to decrease as we age.
Ah, back to the absorption issue.
Yeah, and this often goes hand in hand with reduced absorption or activation of vitamin D, which we absolutely need to absorb calcium effectively.
So they work together. Need enough calcium and enough vitamin D to use it.
Precisely. You need both for strong bones.
Okay. Iron was another one flagged. About 30 milligrams a day, was it?
That was the figure mentioned, yes. The big concern with iron is the risk of deficiency.
And why does that risk go up?
Several reasons. Maybe not enough iron in the diet, or blood loss from chronic conditions, things like ulcers or other issues that might be more common later in life, or again, reduced absorption. And interestingly, vitamin C plays a role here too.
How so?
Vitamin C helps us absorb non-heme iron, the type you get from plant foods. So low vitamin C could indirectly hurt your iron levels.
Wow.
And the sources really stress that anemia, often caused by low iron, isn't just about feeling tired. It's seen as an independent risk factor for declining physical performance in older adults.
So that feeling of fatigue, that lack of energy, some people just put down to age, it could actually
Yeah,
be low iron.
it certainly could be a contributing factor, yes. Definitely worth looking into.
Good point. Okay, what about zinc? I remember being linked to taste.
Exactly. Zinc is involved in loads of things, including wound healing. But yeah, crucially, how our taste buds work.
So low zinc could mean food tastes bland.
It could diminish your sense of taste, yes. Which, as we said, can circle back and reduce appetite, leading to eating less.
Vicious cycle.
Potentially, yeah. Zinc deficiency can also mean wounds heal more slowly and, in severe cases, lead to anorexia, that significant loss of appetite.
Okay, so important for healing and enjoying food, it's also connected.
Isn't it just?
Right, let's switch to vitamins. Vitamin D seems like a really big one for older adults. Lots of deficiency risk.
Huge concern. The sources consistently highlight this. Two main reasons usually cited. One, reduced sun exposure, maybe spending more time indoors.
Less active lifestyle, perhaps?
Could be. And two, our kidneys become less efficient at converting vitamin D into its active form that the body can actually use.
Ah, okay. And we need it for?
Primarily for bone density. It's essential for preventing fractures, which can be devastating for older people. But there's also research linking low vitamin D to other things, like potentially Parkinson's disease risk.
So way beyond just bones.
hmm
But vitamin C, I remember something about cataracts.
Yeah, some studies suggest higher intake, maybe 150 to 250 milligrams a day, might offer some protection against cataracts developing.
Interesting.
And remember, things like stress, smoking, even some medications can actually increase your body's need for vitamin C.
Good point. Individual needs vary. Vitamin E was linked to the immune system.
That's right. It's a strong antioxidant, and there's evidence it can help counter that age-related decline in cellular immunity.
It sort of shores up the defenses.
Kind of, yeah.
That's right.
This suggestion was around 200 milligrams might be beneficial for bolstering the immune system.
Okay. And vitamin B6, increased need there too.
Potentially, yes. Requirements might go up, and if someone has liver issues, that's a risk factor for B6 deficiency.
Right. And B12 also kept coming up, like vitamin D.
Very much so. Often mentioned together as key nutrients of concern.
And the worry there is neurological issues, wasn't it? Similar to thiamine and niacin.
Exactly. B12 deficiency can cause significant neurological problems if not addressed.
Oh, phew. Lots of specific micronutrients to think about. Let's talk about something seemingly simpler, but maybe just as vital. Water.
Oh, absolutely critical. You might think it's obvious, but the sources really hammered home the importance of hydration, especially for older adults.
Why the extra emphasis?
Well, kidney function can decline with age, and good hydration helps the kidneys do their job. It also helps stimulate peristalsis.
Movement in the gut?
Right, helps move things along, preventing constipation, which is a really common complaint.
Yeah.
Plus, dehydration itself is dangerous. In older adults, it can quickly lead to confusion, dizziness, instability, increasing the risk of falls.
Really serious consequences from something as simple as not drinking enough.
Absolutely. Not to be underestimated.
And then fiber. We hear about it all the time for digestion.
And for good reason. It's key for healthy bowel function, adding bulk, stimulating that peristalsis we mentioned, tackling constipation.
Which, as you said, is common due to slower transit times.
Exactly. The advice is usually to increase fiber intake gradually, though, to avoid digestive upset like gas or bloating.
Good tip. Start slow.
Yeah. And some sources also noted fiber can help lower cholesterol levels, which is great for heart health, too.
Double benefit. Digestive and heart health.
And
Okay, and finally, omega-3s. The fatty acids.
yes, found in fatty fish, mainly. They're linked to potential benefits for a whole range of issues that can crop up more with age.
Like what?
Things like dry eyes, maybe some digestive issues, joint pain, inflammation, even potentially helping with symptoms of depression.
Wow, quite a list.
It is. Research is ongoing in some areas, but the potential benefits definitely make them worth considering in the diet.
It really sounds like the focus shifts dramatically towards these specific nutrients, water, and fiber, rather than just cutting calories overall.
That's a perfect summary. Nutrient density is king.
Okay. Now, the sources also talked about common problems related to nutrition that are more frequent in older age. Osteoporosis was a big one,
Huge one. It's basically weakened bones, low bone mass, deteriorating bone structure.
leading to higher fracture risk.
Exactly. Hip fractures, spine fractures, they can severely impact mobility and independence. Really impacts quality of life.
And we link that back to needing enough calcium and vitamin D.
Absolutely crucial for prevention and management.
What about neurological dysfunction? That sounded quite serious.
Yeah, things like disorientation, memory problems, slower processing speed, these can be more common. And the sources specifically linked deficiencies in B vitamins, thiamine B1 and niacin B3 to problems with the central nervous system.
Okay.
And there was also mention that low folic acid, another B vitamin, might be a contributing factor in Alzheimer's disease.
Wow. Really shows that link between what we eat and brain health.
It's incredibly strong.
Anemia came up again, too, as a common problem.
Yes, linked back to that iron discussion. Anemia means lower physical performance, fatigue. Causes can be varied. Not enough iron or vitamin C in the diet, maybe undetected blood loss.
Right, and then obesity is not just a younger person's issue?
Not at all. It can definitely happen in older adults. Often it's that mismatch. Calorie intake hasn't dropped enough to match the slower metabolism and lower activity levels.
So weight management is still important.
Very important. Maintaining a healthy weight is key for healthier aging, reducing risks of diabetes, heart disease, other chronic conditions.
Okay. And constipation, another frequent flyer.
Very common. Infrequent, difficult bowel movements, often due to that slower gut transit time, maybe not enough fluids or activity.
And the prevention tips.
Regular meals, plenty of fluids, daily movement,
Right.
basic stuff, but really effective.
Good habits. Lastly, immunity. We touched on the decline.
Right, that gradual weakening, immunosenescence, makes older adults more vulnerable. And nutritional deficiencies can make it worse.
Which nutrients were key here?
Vitamins A and C, zinc, iron, copper, selenium. Deficiencies in these can compromise immune function further. Low selenium and omega-3 intake might also play a role.
So eating well literally supports your body's ability to defend itself.
That's exactly it. It's foundational.
It's so clear that good nutrition later in life is about way more than just, not being hungry. It's proactive health maintenance.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Did the sources offer some general principles, like overall guidelines for eating well as an older adult?
They did, yes. Fairly straightforward, common sense stuff, mostly.
Like?
Emphasizing balanced meals with a variety of nutrient-dense foods. Making sure hydration and fiber intake are adequate, that came up again and again.
Water and fiber checks.
Limiting added salt and sugar. Trying to eat fish regularly, especially the oily kinds for those omega-3s.
Okay.
Focusing on antioxidant-rich foods like fruits and vegetables to support immunity and bone health. And maybe avoiding foods that are super salty, spicy, or really gas-forming, as they can sometimes be harder to digest.
Seems like solid, practical advice. And it's not just what you eat, but also the other factors influencing it, right?
Absolutely. We've talked a lot about the physiological changes, taste, smell, digestion, oral health.
Right.
But also, reduced physical activity can affect appetite. Dental problems, as we said, can seriously limit food choices.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are the socioeconomic factors. Can people afford nutritious food? Do they have transport to get it? And social isolation eating alone can really dampen the motivation to cook and eat well.
It's such a complex web, isn't it? So many interacting factors. But hopefully, this deep dive has shed light on the most crucial nutritional aspects for you listening.
I hope so too. I mean, the key takeaways are pretty clear, I think. Aging brings real physiological shifts affecting nutrition.
Right. Energy needs often drop.
But the need for specific vitamins, minerals, water, fiber stays high or even goes up.
And knowing about common issues like osteoporosis or anemia lets us be proactive with diet.
Exactly. It empowers choices for better long-term health and quality of life.
So, thinking about all this, here's something to mull over. How might knowing about these changing needs actually alter how we approach, say, grocery shopping or planning meals? Not just for ourselves as we get older, but maybe for our parents or other loved ones. How do we ensure we're truly nourishing for vitality down the line?
That's a great question. Really brings it home to the practical level.
Definitely food for thought. And maybe a conversation starter with your doctor or a dietitian for that personalized advice. Understanding these shifts is just such a key step towards healthy aging, isn't it? Maintaining that quality of life.
Absolutely fundamental.